We always wanted the people to know what the bullhook is, with this metal spike on the end that they use under the elephant's legs and in all the sensitive spots. And I think the public realized it's true. Elephants don't perform for peanuts. They perform because they're afraid that they're going to be hurt.
Our guest is a veteran freelance journalist, associate professor of investigative journalism at the University of Maryland, and to our current point, author of a brilliant and revealing story entitled The Cruelest Show on Earth in Mother Jones magazine more than 3 years ago, proving that abuse of circus animals is far from being something new. Welcome Deborah Nelson into MidPoint. Deborah, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Deborah, Ringling Brothers has now said in 3 years they will phase out the elephants. I want to go back to The Cruelest Show on Earth, the story you wrote, which had to be one of the toughest things that you have ever covered, because it is fair when you read this, see so many reports. These animals have been abused for decades.
It's truly a story that, as a lifelong investigative reporter, I truly believed in comforting the afflicted, afflicting the comfortable, and comforting the afflicted. And this story made me realize that that extends to animals.
Why has it taken, though, so long for us to get to this point? As I mentioned, your article was in the November-December issue of 2011, and here we are in 2015. This is nothing new.
This has been, animal activists have been talking about this for decades. And I think as a society, circus goers have been disturbed by this for years. But it's taken this long for, elephants, animals, wild animals in the circus are an American tradition. And it's taken this long for the people who put on the circuses to realize they can do it without the elephants.
Wait a minute, is that just it? Is it because, and again, I will admit that as a kid, I went to my first Ringling Brothers circus at Madison Square Garden, and you always wanted to see the elephants. Is it just that this was part of our growing up and we didn't want to believe that these things could possibly be happening?
We've had a lifelong love affair with elephants. I think it's only been in the last decade or so that we've come to realize what that means in terms of, communing with them in a circus. I think that, for decades, Ringling Brothers has told the public that elephants were pampered performers, that they were trained through positive reinforcement, when in fact, their own records, which is what I examined for this story, showed that they're leading miserable lives.
Let's just say it out loud then. Ringling Brothers lied.
Ringling Brothers lied about how they were treating their elephants. They were not trained through positive reinforcement. They are trained through punishment, through use of, sticks and whips and even electric prods at times. That's how elephants learn. Ken Feld himself eventually took the stand in a lawsuit that activists brought in, an unsuccessful lawsuit that activists brought against him, and said himself that if we can't use the bullhook, then elephants can't perform in the circus.
These elephants are not performing out of training, they're performing out of fear, aren't they?
That's what the records would indicate.
And you pointed this out in your story, and you pointed out the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service is in charge of oversight to the circus, and they simply couldn't get the job done. Was that simply it, that they didn't have enough money, or were they just looking the other way? They
like perhaps the public for a long time, and like the circus, didn't seem to truly believe that hitting elephants was inhumane. It's taken a long time to get both the government and, and I think even now Feld Entertainment has admitted that using bullhooks on elephants is inhumane. What they said is that society's view of how to treat elephants has changed, but they haven't said that their view has. Now, one thing I'm going to point out is that the strongest evidence in my story didn't come from the activists or any undercover video. It came from Feld Entertainment's own files. There was a citizen lawsuit that was brought against Feld Entertainment that alleged the company's handling of elephants violated the Endangered Species Act. The case was thrown out. It was the judge ruled in Ringling's favor, but not in the merits, but because the plaintiffs didn't have legal standing to sue. But what they did succeed in doing was daylighting thousands of Ringling Brother records that showed how the elephants truly were being treated.
I'm going to ask you to stand right there for just a moment and wait, because we have to take a break and come back. We'll join you again. We're going to break. When we come back, long-term view. Where do these magnificent creatures and their like go from here? And how do we still showcase them without hurting them? We'll talk about that and more when MidPoint continues.